Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Women in Trades, the 4%. I'm your host, Hunter, some welding girl, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been listening and tagging along so far. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe so you can stay caught up with every episode that drops. And let's get right into it today. I have Miss.Welds here with us. I'm super excited. She is a welder and a fabricator. You guys probably know her from social media and we're going to get right into it. We'll let her introduce herself and tell us how she got into her trade.
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for having me, Hunter. I'm so excited to record. Like I was telling you before we started, like I have so many things to tell you, and I'm like really like I've been waiting for something like this, like a page like this, a podcast like this, because I have a lot of dudes invite me, which is great. But like I've always wanted to sit with a girl who I can relate to, who understands me, who I can just bring up a lot more things that won't throw you off, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to talk about a lot of things I haven't talked about before. But sorry, anyways, yeah, so my social media on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Miss.Welds, but my name is Sharon Guerrero Hernandez, and I am an immigrant. I was born in Guanajuato, Mexico, and I was raised here in Texas my whole life. And here in Houston is where like my whole career has been. I haven't welded anywhere else except for here in Houston.
That's awesome. So do you wanna talk at all about your experience as an immigrant to the United States or not?
Yeah, definitely. Because I have a lot of people who ask me about that, specifically a lot of other immigrants, and I do want to state that I do have what is called DACA. So I can work legally, I could be here and I could study legally. It's something I do have to like pay fees for and stuff. But I am here legally because, as soon as I say immigrant, some people think like, I'm here legally. I'm here legally. And a lot of other immigrants ask me, like, as far as like, how is it like working here and can they make enough money as an immigrant? And honestly, like if you have your permit to work here, there is money to be made. But unfortunately, like if an immigrant doesn't have their correct paperwork or, like social security and stuff, then you probably will make a lot less money because there will be companies who are going to hire immigrants, especially here in Houston, Texas. There's a lot of shops that will hire you, but I have seen like them pay like take advantage and pay you like $14 an hour for like flux core even if you're experienced. Thankfully for me, like I had the opportunity to have DACA, and I've always worked legally, and even when I've worked with like sketchy companies, if they don't want to pay me more, then I can leave and go somewhere else. But that may not always be the case. So that's what it's been like for me as an immigrant.
That's some really good information for, anyone who might be in a similar situation. So thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that. So, what got you started in the trade? What inspired you and how did you get to where you are right now?
So yeah, so I'll give you the long story because I always like give the short story, but short story long. I got interested in it when I was in high school because here, like, they do early college where you can go in and, half of the day in high school, half of the day in college. And I was doing pharmacy tech. And it didn't work out for me because I was an immigrant. And apparently, for like pharmacy tech, because it's drugs and all of that, you have to have like a license.
Oh.
And my school wasn't prepared for that because they had never had somebody like me who was an immigrant, and at that time I didn't have a social or anything. I That whole DACA program didn't exist yet. And so anyways, I ended up flunking out of that just because I couldn't get the correct licensing and all of that stuff. It sucked. But at the same time, I had a lot of homeboys who were doing welding, and I remember I was like 15, 16, and asking them like can girls do that? Like now I think back to it and I'm like that like little young me. I'll be like,
You
"Oh, can
didn't
girls do
know.
that?" No. Is that something girls can do? Like can girls do that? Like are girls allowed to be in there? Like and they were like, "Girl, yes." Like there's girls who even show up in like welding heels and stuff. And I was like like sparked my interest right then and there, but wasn't want to say I wasn't, I don't know if this is the right word, but I wasn't brave enough to start yet. I
Yeah.
was like, no, no, like that's not for me. And then I did a lot of waitressing and a lot of like shitty jobs that I hated. And it wasn't until my best friend, she passed away in 2020, and I just started to get like super like philosophical and thinking about life and thinking about, this and that. And I was just like, like, I'm like, man, like, you really just go like whenever. Like, you can be here today, be gone tomorrow, and you won't even know. And I'm like, and then what have I done? Like, I haven't tried anything I've wanted to do. I haven't done anything with my life, like, and I just felt kind of like empty and sad because my best friend was gone and, thinking about my goals and my future and stuff. And that's when I was like, it, I'm like, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna like see how it goes for me. If it doesn't work out, oh well, like I lose nothing. And so I hit up like the only one welder guy that I knew. Shout out to AJ. Like he was like the only welder I knew, and I asked him, "How did you learn?" And he kind of gave me options like, "Oh, you could start off as a helper. You could go to a school." And then he told me which school he went to, and I was like, "Well, I'm gonna go to school because I'm like, even as a helper, like I wouldn't even know where to begin, like, which would have been great, but honestly, I didn't even know anybody to like guide me into stuff like that."
Yeah.
So I started off doing school in 2020. And honestly, like, I didn't know anything. I didn't even know what I thought welding was. Like, I thought it was just fire. I'm like, I didn't know. Like, I was just like, sure,
Same.
fire. And I didn't even know, like, like how to use tools. I didn't know how to use a drill. I didn't know how to use a grinder. Like, the first time I had to use a grinder, I was shitting myself. I was like, I didn't know anything.
Me too.
So yeah, whenever girls hit me up and they're like, I don't know anything, like and I'm like, girl, same. Like you will learn. Like I promise you, you will learn. Like you will be just fine. Like if I was fine, you'll be more than fine. And I remember like the most, like I was like my brain was like like exploded when I finished my combo certificate, which was stick and TIG. And no, when I finished stick, did stick welding, and I started kind of like, videos started popping up for me of like TIG welds and stuff. And I'm like, how are they doing that? Like mine never looked like that. And all I knew was stick. And I would see like TIG, like colorful and weaves. And I'm like, how are they doing that? How do you like, well, when would I get to that? Like 10 years from now with stick? And then I asked my teacher, I was like, how do I do this? And they were like, that's TIG actually. And I was like, what? I thought this was like the one and only. And then so I learned about TIG, I learned about flux core, I learned about MIG, subarc, laser. My little brain was like, like it was, I was like, I want to learn all of it. I'm like, I am not done. I'm like, I need to learn everything. And so yeah, I learned TIG, flux core, stick, MIG, oxyfuel, acetylene. Like I learned a plethora of things. And then finally, when I got out of school, I started off as a structural welder. And yeah, from there I just kind of like grew a little bit. I started off 16 an hour at, the like shittiest little shop. But honestly, shout out to the man who owns that company because he was the first man who was ever willing to give me a shot.
Yep.
Because before him, I applied at so many places. I would show up all completely in FR, work boots, and I would show up like, "Hi, are you hiring?" They're like, "We don't need anybody for the office right now." And I'll be like, do you see me right now? Like, and yeah, like nobody wanted to hire me. And it was like a questionable shot, but honestly, shout out to that man who owned it because he gave me my first chance. And from there, it was easier for me to leave there and go to the next place and be like, yeah, I have experience. So shout out to him. But yeah, I started off structural and then I grew into pipe. And then I honestly I haven't done pipe in a while. My main focus has been aluminum structural. And honestly, that's my specialty is aluminum.
So on the subject of aluminum, which you are amazing at, and that's actually where we got to meet was at Top Welder, and
Yes.
I did not expect aluminum welding. I had never aluminum welded in my life. Christian had to teach me that morning.
Yeah.
And I knew I was screwed because I knew how good of an aluminum welder you were. I knew how good Dr. Welds was at just fabricating and everything in
Yeah.
general. But I was like, whatever. Like, I'm just here for a good time at this point because I thought it was so funny because they were like, oh, you guys need to talk to each other. Like, we were competing, but I genuinely liked all of you guys so much and
Yeah.
considered y'all friends by the time we filmed. So I was like, it was
Girl.
hard.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because whenever Dr. Wells showed up, I was like, I'm fried. I was like, yeah, like I know aluminum. Girl, from the first project from the bench, I
Yeah.
thought like I was, all I could see was Nathan next to me and I was like, I think I think I'm going a little bit better. I think we might win. I don't know, you know. And then Dr. Welds and Tim pulled out their monstrosity, gorgeous ass, like with a backing and everything. I was like, oh no, baby, oh no.
It was so
I was
funny.
like,
Yeah,
did y'all get like an extra hour or something? Like, what the heck? Like, yeah,
yeah, he's
he's a
just way
beast.
too good.
Yeah,
But
but touching on Top Welder, the show that like we were in together, girl, honestly, if they wanted to be like, shout out to whoever was editing because honestly, I was being a shady bitch by accident. And 'cause I say a lot of things before I think about them, and
me too.
I kept forgetting I was mic'd up.
Me
And
too.
I would say rude things and then I'd be like, "Damn." And before they aired it, I was so nervous because I was like, "Oh my God, like all these other contestants are going to hate me." Because I was like, maybe they're gonna put that in there and they're gonna make me look like the messiest ever. So bless their soul that they did not do that because they easily could have done it with
That
me.
would have been so funny though if they did.
And I was so nervous because I was like, "Hunt, okay, like look," and I'm gonna bring it up to you now because I know you're not gonna give a but I like low key shaded your group and it wasn't intentional. It was just because I think me and my partner kept coming out in second place. And I told him, I was like, damn, like we keep being second place. I was like, oh, like freaking Dr. Wells, you know, whatever. And I was like, well, at least we're not last every time. And like I didn't even, I just thought about it later and I was like, oh, that's kind of mean. You know, I'm like, because like y'all kept coming out last because like like you were barely like knowing aluminum and stuff, and I
Yeah.
was like, dude, like Hunter's gonna watch this and she's gonna be like, oh, like this raggedy, like messy, and like, but like I thought about it because I don't think about things like, and I should, but like I said it and I was like, oh my God, like please don't put that, like I don't want Hunter to hate me because I really like I love her, like.
I was being shady to Dale Brisby. And after the fact, everyone's like, you met Dale Brisby, you're so lucky. And the whole time, like, they're literally in the episode, like, he starts talking to me one time, and I literally look at him, and I'm just like,
Girl, you don't know how many people have told me that. They're like, "Oh my God, you met him." To be honest,
I
like
didn't
I
even
didn't
know
know
who he
who he
was.
was.
No, me either. I had no idea.
But honestly, all the people who know him is like these Texas like horse people, bull riding. So I'm like, of course, like you know who
Yeah,
Del Brisby is. I
all the
don't, cause
rodeo people.
yeah, I'm like I'm from Texas, but I am not rodeo girl. Like I don't know what I.
So, like, I was scared of you because all blue collar women, like, you never know. You're like, is she gonna be a girl's girl or like, is she here for? There's, rarely there are women that are like only want male attention and don't want to be friends and stuff. And like,
Hmm.
a lot of us have RBF unintentionally. So I was like
Yeah.
kind of scared of you. I was really excited to meet you because I had always seen your videos and stuff too. But then you were so nice. Like I was in like we vibed instantly.
Yeah. Girl, I
Yeah.
was scared of you.
That's valid.
Because mainly because of the same thing you said, because
Yeah.
with blue collar women it's always like a hit or miss,
Yeah.
it's either like they can be your best friend or they just don't fuck with you because they see you as like competition, and I'm like,
Mhm.
girl, like I promise you I don't want these men, you can have them, I want you to talk to me, like, but yeah, so I had the same fear. I was just like, oh, what if she's one of those like blue collar women where she's like where you're like hi and she's like hi, and I was like,
Yeah.
like, but you weren't, like, you were very like chill and cool and kind. So yeah, like we vibed.
Yeah, we all got along. It ended up
Yes.
being so much fun too. Like it was a really overall good experience other than like you said, so long of a day and so hot. If they would have broke it up, I feel like it would have been a little bit better.
And honestly, it was kind of a humid day, but it was like on the fresher side of Texas, because definitely, what was it, like September, October we recorded? October, I think.
November.
November, yeah.
October or November.
But yeah, somewhere around there. So it was on the cool time, but even
Mhm.
then I was sweating.
I found it really interesting that you brought up, because you aren't the first one to bring up like a death having an impact on getting where you are. Someone did recently in another episode, and it's what got me into my career
Mhm.
also because I realized life is short. And there was a point in time that I had 8 jobs in 1 year because I would get a job and I would hate it and I would quit and I would get another one and work there for a little bit and hate it and quit until I found, welding and pipe fitting. And now I've been at my job almost 6 years. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've heard the same situation from a few other people as well, where like someone passed away and sometimes, it's because like they feel like financially like husband passed away and they needed to make more money or something. And yeah, that's kind of strange how sometimes death just like brings you into this in a weird way. But like kind of touching on the whole like women working like for like financial gain on this. I'm pretty sure you have the same thing happen to you. Like I don't know if you have women who message you and they're like, I really want to try this, but my husband, my dad, my boyfriend doesn't let me. And I'm like, and I'm pretty sure you have this similar messages or men
or
being
they'll
like,
be like, they say I can't because I'm a woman. And I'm like,
hmm.
you do not need that negativity in your life.
Yeah, and I'm like, when they're like, oh, my husband, my boyfriend, I'm like, girl, what, did you marry your dad? Like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
and even that, like, I can't, maybe it's just me, I can't comprehend it because my husband, from the moment I was like, I want to try this, he has never been like no or negative or nothing. So I'm like, I can't imagine like having a man, like my man not support me in my decisions. But yeah, like, I guess like, what I have to say is just like, girl, like, it's your life. Like, in the end of the day, like, you only live this one life and that's it. And like, try whatever you want to try. And if, like, somebody like your family or something's not supporting you, like girl, them. Like they're not the ones
Mhm.
who are gonna like like give you that money. They're not gonna give you that, like, so just do what you want to do, what you want to try.
Something I want to add on to that, because the beauty of the trades is it is so vast that if you do try a trade and you hate it, you can try a different one and it will be completely different. And like there's just so many different things you can do, from welding to electrical. I mean, look at the episodes that we've recorded so far, and there's so many different careers out there that, there's women that don't want to be outside or they don't want to be in a shop. So they work in they become a crane operator and they work
Yeah.
in a cab and it's temperature controlled in there. Like there are so many options.
Yeah, definitely. Question for you. How did you or when or how or what gave you the like push to like start posting yourself, like your job?
So I had like done it a few times. So I had like made a few videos, but my main TikTok account, the one I have now, Some Welding Girl, it used to be called Lost Plant Lady because I had over 300 houseplants. I lived in a 5-bedroom house with like a couple friends, and my bedroom, I had 3 greenhouses in there, and I just had
Wow.
like tons of plants, but I was still a pipe fitter. I hadn't learned to weld just yet. And then I started learning to weld and I started seeing welding content. And I think it was about the same time that you started like posting welding content. And I had made like a few construction site videos and would always like instantly delete them because they would start to blow up and all these men would start like talking and I had no following, like no one to back me up or like support me or like,
Mhm.
so I'd just delete it because I'd be like, I can't handle this cyberbullying. And then I ended up getting burned really bad welding. And that's like my first video that blew up and I started to get a following. So, like, anytime that there were haters in the comments, then at least I had some loyal followers that would start
Yeah.
arguing with them.
Yeah, it definitely helps when it's not
Yeah,
just you being attacked.
literally.
It definitely takes some getting used to like,
And
getting used.
for a long time, I would just delete them, like literally.
Girl, you are me. Like that's what I do. People like, well, I mean, they do. Like they still do. Like tell
Yeah.
you all kinds of BS, and I would like feel like I had to reply to every single one and prove myself and argue back and forth and get my point across. But with time, with the years that I've been online, learned that that doesn't work. Like once people, like these online people, they don't give a damn about you. Like they just come here to like spew negativity, and
Mhm.
they themselves have a shitty life. And so they're just trying to like portray that onto you. And so nothing you say is going to make them be like, you're right. Like they're just here to argue. And I'm
Yeah.
like, girl, I'm at peace. Like I don't even argue with my own man. Like what the makes you think I'm arguing with these raggedy men online? Like, so I just started to delete them. Like any comment that I saw negative, delete. If you go to like my, you know how you can like go to your settings and like restrict certain words.
Yep,
Girl, I have
yep,
a list extremely long. Like anything y'all like them stupid. I'm not even gonna say what the words are, but like the main things that people love to
yep.
say. Everything. I'm like, no, like no, you're not gonna get a chance to say it. Like and if something does kind of make it through, I'm like delete, delete. And like sometimes here and there, I will reply like just one thing, like just to be like, like,
Yep.
and then I'll move on. Then I'll move on. But like honestly, for like the past 3 months, like I don't even read my comments anymore. And if I happen to catch one by accident, like I might just delete it or I might reply, like depends how I'm feeling that day.
Mhm.
But yeah, it definitely takes some getting used to. And one thing I want to say, as you like specifically to you, the way that these men talk to you and they try to portray that it's because of like like your online page or like your OF or anything,
Yeah.
absolutely not, because this is coming from me, a woman who I don't like post anything or like that, and they will still sexualize me. They'll talk about
Yep.
me getting jobs because I had to somebody, and they'll tell me like the most raggedy sexual things. Like they'll sexualize the out of me. So like literally, Hunter, it has nothing to do with you or your job or anything. It is just these men. They love to see us in that way and love to bring us down. So like literally you could be the a nun welder completely covered up, and they're
They
still going to
would
come
still.
in and sexualize you. So
Yep.
girl, you might as well profit off of it. Them.
Yep, this is why I love you, because you are literally like the most supportive girl's girl. Like you see through people's bullshit. Like you are literally one of my favorite people, dude. And thank you for recognizing that, because I didn't even make the spicy page till a year ago. And that's part of why I did, is because I realized, and so many people were like, all these thirsty guys on your Instagram, you might as well make money off of it. Like
Yeah, girl, you might
literally.
as well.
Literally, like I don't ever plan on having kids or anything for them to, like be like, "Oh, my mom did what?" Like, and it doesn't matter if you're a mother and you did do that, like I'm not judging,
Hmm.
but like just for me and my legacy, like I feel like life's short on this silly little planet. We are literally on a rock floating around in space. Like, is it that
Yeah,
serious?
like literally nothing is that serious. Like
We could
calm
die
the
any
F
minute,
down.
literally. Like, could hit the fan any minute. So,
Yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to say that to you because I'm like, that's insane, and like I know even other girls do it to you where they're like you're portraying us in a bad way. And I'm like, girl, these men are going to perceive us whatever way they want to perceive us no matter what
yep.
you do, and I'm like, and it's these married ass men with like 5 kids. Like if they're watching her, oh, like your page or whatever, like that says more about them than it says about you. So it's like,
Hmm.
and they're like, oh, but they're tempted, and I'm like, shut the up. Literally shut the up. Like
Yeah.
oh my god. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out to you because it always like I have it always like in my chest every time someone attacks you, and I'm like, leave my homegirl alone.
I appreciate that.
But it was brought up that like nowadays it's like really like the trades are being like glamorized on social media, and it's like becoming very like a lot of our videos go viral because they see us doing these jobs, and a lot of people like either hate it or they love it. But personally, like I love it, and it's not just me being biased because I am like the one posting stuff, but because before this, like TikTok and Instagram, like everybody watches everything. And it makes me happy that certain women who think they weren't able to do this can hop on and see me and see you doing it. And they're like, oh, those are girls that are built like me, that look like me, like I can do this too. And it's not just like about like glamorizing and making it look like, yeah, this is the best ever, but it's like about bringing awareness to like, hey, like you can do this too. You have options, you know? And it does bring not just young women, but young men too. Like a lot of young men message
Mhm.
me and they're like, how can I get into this? Can you help me? Because, like they see me doing, or people like me or anybody. And I'm like, I think that it should be like, pushed more on social media because we do need more tradespeople. Like everybody's so focused on being, just a beauty influencer or a food reviewer or this or that. I'm like, baby, we need somebody building these hospitals, like.
Yeah, for real.
And so I do think it's important to push it out and to let, the younger generation know that, this is a good option for you if you're not vibing with something else. And also, I like reaching specific type of women as well. The women who are in abusive relationships and they don't want to leave because financially they don't have any like they don't have anything to fall back onto. And like I'm like, well, in the trades, you can make more money than you will like waitressing or working at a grocery store or something. You have a little bit more of a chance to leave that man and support yourself and your kids, because like I think about it right now, like if, something happened to my man, I got it. Like I'm good, I'm okay. And I want other women to have that financial freedom as well, of like anything, like even if you have the best man who takes care of you and like does it, like that's amazing. But it's great to have your own backup and have
Yep.
something that you're good at, have a skill, because you just never know, and like I love having that, like whatever happens in my relationship, if I ever choose to like support myself, I can. And I want
Mhm.
other women to have that too. Like I think it's really important.
Yeah, and it's really heartbreaking, but it is an unfortunate reality because I know I have and I bet you have too, literally had women message you and say, "Hey, I'm in an abusive relationship. I want to leave my husband." And I've gotten multiple like that, and the fact that we're able to put ourselves out there and let these women know that they have options. And I can't imagine if I had access to TikTok and everything that, we do now, like in high school. I probably would have started this path for myself way earlier than I did because I got pushed to go to cosmetology in high school and I ended up doing graphic design, which is good. It kind of helps me out with everything I'm doing now. But the fact that they push cosmetology so hard instead of like
Yeah.
welding or automotive.
Yeah. And that's also like kind of like the same thing you said, like if I would have seen someone like me when I was younger, when I was like in high school, and instead of doing pharmacy tech, I probably would have done welding. I would have been like, it wouldn't have even been a question in my brain of like, can women do it, like I would have been
Right.
like, pharmacy, like put me in this, and so, yeah, and I definitely wish I would have started a lot younger than I did. I started, I think I was like 23, I was like a little bit like older. So yeah, I'm like, I definitely like love reaching the younger audience so they can
Mhm.
start sooner as well.
One thing that I did want to talk about that I haven't really talked about on any episodes yet is, so this is not sponsored or anything, but when I was starting out, I had like a really hard time finding good work boots. I tried, a few different pairs, and I even had spent like over $200 on work boots that didn't last me 6 months. So, what's like the best pair of women's work boots that you've gotten for welding and, standing all day long so far?
Yeah, so whenever I first started, and I have them here. No, I don't. I just had like these regular, like square cowboy looking work boots. Um, and those were so uncomfortable. Like honestly, like my feet were killing me. And
Yeah.
I told myself, because at that time I was like transitioning, like being promoted from, I was about to test at the job I was at. I was about to go test to become their pipe welder. And I told myself, if I pass this test and I become a pipe welder, because it's all TIG, I'm like, I'm getting myself the pink steel blue boots. And then I passed and I did get them because I was like, well, now I'm taking, I don't have to worry about my laces burning up. And that's the like about the only shoe the steel blue boots that actually make my size. Because every other boot I have to get
Oh,
a woman 6 and I'm a 5. And so as like, and I have a really small foot. Like I'm a kid's 3, a woman's 5, whatever. Like, and that's the only brand that's actually ever fit me good. They fit me like snug. And I'm like, and this is like I said, this isn't and even me sponsoring them or anything, because the first boots I had, I bought them. Like they were like 200 or something. I bought them myself because I
yeah.
wanted them so bad. And then later on, yeah, they gave me a free pair. And those are the ones like I vibe with the most. But yeah, so like as far as boots, those are the ones I like. And I also will say as far as welding gloves, because I also struggle so much with welding gloves because my hands are so little. But there's this brand called Slickman Apparel, and they make these like pink slick chick, like extra small. Those are like the only gloves that have ever actually fit my hands good. And they have like the little pink piece, which sounds dumb to like dudes, I guess. But I'm like, girl, I love keeping my like feminine
Yeah.
aside, like no matter where I'm at. And I know some people, even girls, try to be like, oh, leave that shit behind. You're at work. I'm like, I don't give a I'm like, I am super feminine and I like to like portray it.
Yeah.
So I like those, the Slick Chick from Slick Man Apparel. I like the steel blue boots. But I will say as far as like FR shirts, that's really hard for me because I'm like 99 pounds, 5 feet, and all the FR welding shirts are always super huge on me, and I hate it. I don't think I've ever had somebody send me a shirt that like fits my figure and isn't too long or, anything.
Have you
So
tried out the women's area shirts?
I was gonna say, somebody recently gifted me one of those for, I helped them record a commercial for their company and they gave me
Mhm.
one. It did fit me a lot better, a lot
They
better. It's
are
like,
they are really nice. I have some connections and they're trying to get me to start a women's FR line, like,
yeah,
with all my other stuff I'm doing, and I'm like, "Maybe," like, cause
yeah,
there's not a lot of them, and, like, we need like, if Wobros was ran by a woman, you get what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, yeah.
And I actually hit up Wobros one time and I was like, I see you don't have anything in women's sizing. Are you ever going to do that? And, they're like, oh, yeah, we're thinking about it. And Western Welder has been like, they have messaged me and messaged me and messaged me to work with them. And they did send me one shirt one time. They sent me a men's small. And I was like, absolutely not. And I had to pay like $65 to have it tailored to fit me so that I could like try to somehow promote it.
Yeah.
And so I told them no. I was like, I can't work with you anymore because like I'm losing more money than I probably make out of promoting you. And just recently, I had another workwear company hit me up. I went through their stuff. They had no women's clothes. And I messaged them and I said, thank you for considering me, but I did notice that you don't sell anything for women. And me, because of who I am, I like to, promote things that my fellow followers are gonna like also be able to wear.
Yeah.
And so I do have that issue, and just like you, I have my friend Emily, love her. She loves you. My friend Emily, she loves you so much.
Aw.
And I think you send her stickers too. But so yeah, she and her and I have talked about the same thing about like creating our own like something, cuz she's a little bit taller, I'm super short. Like we both have the body types to give like diversity. And
Yeah.
we think about it too. So I don't know, maybe later on we'll be competitors in a good way, in the best way.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully,
Definitely. It needs to
yeah.
happen because the only one I know of that makes is literally Ariat that makes,
Mhm.
like, actually smaller sizes.
Yeah,
Like
so and I how like I how do I say this without being like rude? But a lot of women in the trades, they're a lot bigger, like they have a
Mhm.
bigger build. I think all these companies or people have this like image of like that's what all tradeswomen look like, and
Well, it's
that
a
they're,
stigma. It's a
yeah, like,
stereotype.
yeah, that like every woman is going to fit a man's small. And I'm like, dude, I'm literally shaped like a 12-year-old. Like, please, like, like, and so yeah, like Ariat's like the only one who makes clothes, and it's like actually like comes in and
Yeah.
keeps your figure, so you're not just looking like a block.
Mhm.
And it sounds like something dumb, like you shouldn't worry about while at work, but I'm like, girl, like I said, I like to keep my femininity no matter where I'm at. So yeah, like that's definitely like, I hope we can make that happen for like women one day.
So, if you had a big main piece of advice to any women wanting to join the trade, what would that be?
Be confident. Be confident and do not take any shit. That's like the main thing I can say.
Yeah.
Because back then, girls would hit me up and they're like, "What advice can you give me as a woman?" And I had the mindset of it shouldn't be as a woman. Like, like just do the same thing everybody does and you'll be fine. But then slowly, like with my own experiences, I'm like, not really. Actually, like these men are gonna try you. They're gonna treat you differently. They're gonna like act a certain way. They're gonna sexually harass you. They're gonna gossip about you. And honestly, you need to stand your ground and sometimes you need to put them in their place. And it always happens to women. And oh my God. So you were talking to another girl about how you had a coworker and she was lesbian and like guys kept trying to get at her, right?
Mhm.
And so quick, like short story, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to share the name of my friend or anything, but she used to work with me and I got her put into where I was working at. Well, I mean, it was mostly her skill that got her in, but I did tell her, "Hey, come over here," because I thought it was a good place. Like all the men were like respectful. Nobody had like tried me or disrespected me, so I thought it would be a good place for her too. And so she is also lesbian. She's not interested in men, but I guess because of that, like she doesn't have interest in these men and she was like very like friendly from the beginning. And of course men are going to perceive your friendliness as flirting and like, oh, she wants
Yep.
me. And I was so disappointed because the guy that was training her that she was working alongside with, I trusted him so much. I really, really liked him in the beginning. I was like, oh, he's great. Like he's so helpful and respectful and whatever. He failed me. He sexually harassed her so much. And whenever she finally spoke up about it and she was telling me, like, dude, he just told me this, this, and that. And it was like gross things about her sexuality, about like, oh, it's like, you don't know if you like it if you haven't tried it, like stuff like that, like really gross things. And mind you, this is like a fucking 40-plus-year-old man to like this 20 some, like early teens girl
Yeah.
and his daughters are the same age as me and her.
Always.
And I'm
Always.
like,
They always have daughters our age. It's
yes,
always those ones.
yes. I'm like, first of all, like, what? And anyway, she started having issues and she was a little bit more on the like she didn't know how to come out and speak out for herself. And I'm very like hot-headed. And even seeing how she was like being like, I was like, oh, hell no. And I was like, girl, you gotta tell them. I'm like, you gotta tell them. Or, and okay, so that guy came up to me and he said, "Hey, how is so and so doing, my homegirl? Like, can you like what does she think about me?" And I told him straight up, I'm like, honestly, I'm like, she's not comfortable. Like you're making her very uncomfortable with everything you're saying. And that's not cool. And he was just like, "No, no, I haven't been telling her anything." And I'm like, "But you have." Like I could, I told him like, "But you have, and you're making her uncomfortable." And I'm like, and this was years ago, so I don't remember but he was clearly embarrassed. And
Mhm.
then from there, he got very awkward with her, like very much retaliated against her. He was being like a dick to her, and it became an even bigger issue. So she had to take it to our supervisors. She brought it to our supervisors and said, "Hey, this and this and this has been going on. He has told me this, this, and this." And the supervisor kind of didn't believe her. And he came up to me and he's like, "Hey, is it true that so and so is telling this girl this and that?" And I was just like, "Yeah, he's being gross." And he's like, "But what is he telling her?" Because she didn't give us specifics. And I'm like, "Oh, I'll tell you." And I gave them all the gross specific things he was telling her. And they were like, "No, he shouldn't be telling her that. Like, we'll talk to him and tell him to keep it about work only, blah, 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 blah." It did not end for her there. It turned into a bigger issue and they took her into the office. And in the office, when they talked to her, they just blamed it on her. They said, "What do you expect? You're working with a bunch of men. Like, you should know what it's going to be like. Blah, blah, blah. Like, we'll talk to him." But basically, they're like, "Sure, we'll talk to him, but like, you should know what to expect because you're working with men." And girl, I was so mad. I was so fucking mad. And yeah, it's just like stuff like that will like happen to you. And the times where I've had men, like, I think I've only had like one like one or two men try me, specifically one.
Yeah.
And girl, I was very like, I called him out, like we have the meetings in the morning where you stretch and little safety meeting or whatever. As soon as they like the meeting ended, I called him out in front of everybody. I was like, if I'm gonna call you out, I'm gonna make sure I embarrass you. And I called him out and I said, hey, I need to talk to you. And everybody was like, and I was like, I'm gonna need you to leave me and the other two girls alone. I'm like, you need to, and I was like telling him, and he was just like, he got all red. He's like, oh, okay, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool, that's it then. And I went to my little area to start welding my pipes. And then, like, 5 minutes later, the supervisor came up to me and he said, hey, we heard something happen this morning. Like, what happened? And I was just like, oh, yeah, like, no, nothing, no big deal. It's just, he's doing too much. Like, he's harassing my homegirls and me. And I didn't like it. So I told him, to leave us alone. And they're like, okay, next time, don't do that. Next time, you need to come and tell us. And I was like, oh, so I can tell y'all and y'all can do the same thing y'all did with my other homegirl, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we'll take care of it. Like, and I was just like, but you won't. I'm like, because, I'm like, this isn't the first time. And girl, they did not like me because I spoke out way too much.
Yeah.
They hated me there. Like, honestly, they hated me. I spoke out about how they were paying like kids like 14 an hour to weld, how they wouldn't give people raises, how they let go of sexual harassment. Like, girl, I was just like, yep, yep, yep. And obviously they're gonna hate that. And the reason I was like that is because I knew that if I got fired, my man was still gonna pay all the bills. Like I was like, I am here for fun. Like, don't try me. Like I
Yeah.
don't care to lose this job. And I spoke out because a lot of men there, immigrant men who were getting taken advantage of, I was like, they're not gonna speak up because they don't want to lose their job because they are the breadwinners of their family. And I'm like,
Mhm.
so I'm like, I'll do it. I don't give a. And so they hated me. They really hated me. And the first time I up, where I had a no call, no show because my phone, it was like destiny. Like my phone completely blacked out that day, couldn't get it to turn on. Went and bought a new phone, and apparently, like the moment I didn't show up, they like fired me. Showed up the next day trying to like clock in, and they're like, oh, actually, we let you go. And I was like, people literally do no call, no show all the time, and y'all have never fired somebody for this. But the first time, like, I do it, and I have literally, like, I brought my T-Mobile, like, I was like, I went to go get a new phone. Like, that's why I couldn't call y'all. And, yeah, they were just like, oh, well, you're already out of the system, so we can't do anything, whatever. And I was just like, yeah, like, and I was like hurt because I had never been fired before. And I was like, damn, it's because my big old mouth. Like, it's because I can't keep quiet. Like, I hated myself for it for a little bit. But honestly, when I was like packing up all my stuff and getting ready to go, one of the supervisors said something to me. He said, I went up to him and I was like, tell me the real reason y'all are firing me. I'm like, because I know it's not a no call, no show. I'm like, just tell me so I can know. And he was like, no, like, you're great. Your wells are great. Like, you've never failed an x-ray. Like, you've always worked good, blah, blah. But, it's out of my control. It's just like the higher ups, like, I can't do anything about it. And he's like, he was basically like, you're not gonna make it far here. He's like, you're gonna be way better off somewhere else. He was basically like, take this as a blessing. And at the moment,
Yep.
I was like, shut the up. Like, I was like just mad because I was like, you just fired me. But looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, it was a blessing because that place like did not respect and value their workers, especially women. And I'm like, I had to go. I'm like, I had to
Yeah.
go. But yeah, so a lot of things will happen to you as a woman.
And it is sad, but sometimes it is most effective if you can and if you feel comfortable to stand up for yourself.
The same guy I called out for my homegirl, and I was cool with him until I called him out for my homegirl. Didn't talk to me again. Very like short. Like if he had to talk to me, it was just work, and then he off. And I was just like, good. You should be embarrassed. Like, and yeah,
Exactly.
like but you and I'm like, I guess I'm coming off very much as like, oh, these men in the trade. But no, there's really great men in the trade.
There are.
There's men who are going to like see you as a daughter. They're going to want to protect you. They're going to want to make sure that you're good. They're going to teach you everything they know. Like they just want to see you thrive. They're very like, there's amazing men in the trades. It's more good than bad, to be honest. Like out of those 10 bad men, or 10 good men, one might be shitty and
Yeah.
another might try to follow along, but the rest of them, they are respectful men. They're men of trades with like good values and whatever. But there's the ones that are going to try you, and it is going to be like a little bit awkward and intimidating, but you just got to like speak up for yourself every single time.
Mhm.
Like you cannot let anything slide, because then they're going to think they can just like treat you however. And like, and it's like, maybe it's me because I grew up around, like, my brothers are very shitty men, and I always had to protect myself against them, so I've never been scared to like, tell a man what it is, and anything. But I can understand how other women might feel a little bit like intimidated by it. But like, girl, like, you really, like, you have to stick up for yourself. You have to, the moment that they start messing with you, you have to call them out to their face. Like, I'm like, yes, of course you can go to HR, you can go to your supervisor, but a lot of times all it takes is just telling them. It's just telling them to
Mhm.
their face that they need to off, and they'll be embarrassed enough that they will.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
so
like nipping it in the butt early so they don't think it's okay, like from the start, and telling them
mhm.
to off, absolutely. But just like you said, and I absolutely would not be where I am in my career or where I am as a welder without the good men, because they're the ones that taught me and got me to where I am. Like
Yes.
at the end of the day, there are a lot of good ones out there, even though some are shitty.
Yeah, there's a lot of great men in the trade. Definitely, like, I can't say that I've dealt with too many situations with like sexual harassment or anything, because honestly, I am very like, when I come into a new job, I don't come in as like, "Hi everybody." I come in very like off-putting, very to
Yep.
myself. I don't come in like, "Good morning, sunshine." Like, I'm
Nope.
very, to put it in a different way, I come in very bitchy, like I
Same.
do. And I'm
It
like,
makes it
and
easier.
yes, it does. And so from the very beginning, if men don't like me, it's because they think I'm rude. And I'm like, I'd rather you think that I'm rude than for you to think you can like mess with me.
Yep.
And so I come off very, like you said, RBF, and very like, they kind of stay away from me. And it isn't until they have to work side by side with me that, like, they interact with me. And if I see that they're not trying me in any kind of way, I'll open up and be cool with them. And
Yep.
then they'll be like, I f- with her,
Yeah.
And but like, aside from that, like, other dudes will be like, oh, she's rude, oh, like this. And and anytime I do talk to men, I always like, I'm never like, kind of like, I never give them any kind of sign that they will have any chance with me. I'm always like, I
Yeah.
am married, I have kids, I am married, like, and I know some dudes don't care about that, but I think just the way that I portray it, they know very much that I'm not here to like mess with anybody. Like, I'm just here to work, and that's it. And yeah, like, that's kind of how you have to like come in and portray yourself, very like stern, and like, not let them think that they can mess with you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And on the topic of like sexual harassment, while we're talking about it, it's just crazy to me because literally every woman that comes on has a story of, getting harassed or a man trying to harass her and her
Yeah.
shutting it down. That's the unfortunate reality, but there is strength in numbers. So the more women that we get in the trades, the better chance we have of
Yeah.
eliminating some of that. But at the same time, there's harassment in any workplace. You go to an office and
Mhm.
women there still have issues. So it's a global problem. Let's be real. Women are not respected globally in many countries. We have a lot of progress to make.
Yeah,
So,
it's definitely more of just a issue with women in workspaces,
yeah.
not just in the trades.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I don't want this to like, for other women to watch this and be like, "Oh my God, like, I'm not gonna go if I'm gonna get sexually harassed." It's
Yeah.
just, I just feel like we do have to talk about it and mention
Yep.
it. Like,
Yep.
it is a reality, but who knows, like, it could, like, it might be very different for you. It's just, it depends where you're at, and if you're at a place where it's happening and nobody's sticking up for you, or just leave. It's not a good place to be in anyway,
Yep.
because there will be a lot of places that will back you up. And like, for example, shout out to John King, my old boss from JK Welding. He, like, I always like, no man there at that job, no man ever messed with me and or tried to harass me or tried any kind of like disrespect with me. all those men are very good men that work there. The boss, John King, I was always very confident that if something ever did happen, that I could go and say, "Hey, this is happening," and I knew that that person would be gone like that.
Yeah.
He always made it very clear to me. And so that's why I lasted there so long, because it was just a very safe space for me as a woman. I will say that like did have my coworkers who would try to like kind of like baby me sometimes. Like my supervisor would be like, "Don't let her do that. Like she's gonna hurt herself, or don't let her carry that." Like, and I see it as like, at first I would be kind of offended because I'd be like, "You think I can't do this? Like you think I'm dumb?" Like, but I see it as a way of like they're men who are raised correctly to see women like to be protected, and that's what they're trying to do. Like they were raised to
Yeah.
be protectors. They see a tiny as woman, and they're like, I as a man can't let you do that, like they're just doing like what instinctively comes to them. And
Yep.
so it didn't bother me anymore. Towards like the longer I was there, I was just be like, okay, like I see where they're coming from, and sometimes I'd be like, go ahead, like
Yeah.
that's your back, not mine. Like,
Same. No, same. No, because
but
'cause I'll
at
be like, "Oh,
first,
shouldn't we get, like, a chain fall or something?" And the guys will be like, "No, pretty, 1, 2, 3." I'm like, "Okay," and then the next day, they're like, "My
oh
back's
my
blown out, I don't know why," and I'm like, I don't know why either."
Oh my God. So another thing, a lot of women think they can't do it because they think they gotta be like her, And I'm like, girl, do you know that a lot of the time these men don't even lift things? Like we
No.
have cranes, we have
Overhead
forklifts,
cranes.
we have like dollies. Like you don't have to be girl, like these gas tanks that weigh like probably 10 times more than me. I changed them because they're, like there's stuff to carry them in.
Yeah.
And like you and me are very like petite framed,
Yes.
and so I'm like, girl, like I'm like I said, like barely even 100 pounds, 5 feet. Like, I'm like, I promise you, like even though these men are big, it is like sometimes like there is certain things that you do have to like move around or something. But and you do have to have some force, but you don't have to come in built like a bodybuilder,
Right.
like you will be fine. Like I promise you, you will be fine.
Yeah, when I was, like, a second-year apprentice, my foreman told me that the we had got a new project manager, and he was like, yeah, I kinda had to tell the project manager off because, first of all, our crew was just me and my foreman, and he
Mhm.
really liked having me as I was his welder helper, basically, at the time because he was the welder and the foreman, and I was, like, the apprentice fitter and so I'd fit stuff up for him and, you know, get him anything he needed while he was welding. And the project manager was like, well, why do you want her? She can't even carry a big bottle of argon up the stairs. And my foreman's like, you realize that most of the men that work at our company like can't do that without hurting themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like there's some that can, and even then they probably shouldn't be. Like,
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. Like who I don't know, Richard from the Ocean Corporation,
oh,
I
yep,
think.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
So him, like he always tells a story about like how he thinks like women are just so much better at certain things. And I love the story that he tells about like they had to get like all of these cylinders or something, like this very heavy stuff like loaded up into like a trailer or something, and they had a competition with their one woman worker versus him. And it was like whoever wins, I don't know what the prize was or something. And like so they're like, okay, ready, set, go, and he's over here like, oh, like trying to like, and this woman goes, gets like the forklift and just comes in, beep beep, everything all at once, and they were all just like, well, there you go, like. And so yeah, sometimes it's like you just gotta like work smarter, not harder, like.
I had a guy in my Instagram comments who was making fun of me for wearing a face shield while I was running a cutting wheel. And I was like, okay, you would look I was like, you're right. I would look so much cooler if I had an eye patch. And then he was like, well, I'm not going to stop what I'm doing to go across site to get a face shield. And I was like, that's why women are so much more efficient than you because I show up to the job with everything I need. Like, we work smarter and not harder because 'cause I'm not gonna make 500 trips over there to run a grinder, like
Yeah, like girl, we're getting paid by the hour. I'm gonna go get that face shield.
Yeah, like, come
And
stupid.
like, I guess I had to learn a lot as far as like safety as well. I had a lot of injuries, and like by now I'm very much like, nope, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm very like precautious. I have like you will never be able to see it unless you're like in my face, in my eyeball with a flashlight, but I have a little crater in my eye from getting like slag stuck in there, and they had to like drill it out like the at the eye doctor. And I've gotten like a concussion. I've gotten like the wire wheel, like it caught my shirt one time and boop, it like hit my chest, took all my breath out, and I was just there like I've had so many bad things happen to me that by now I'm very like, oh, I'm very like OSHA number two over here.
Yeah.
And I like to like really like push that a lot often, like to like the younger people. I'm like, you cannot weld with a short sleeve, you cannot grind without your face shield, you cannot, I'm like, and I sound like I'm probably very annoying sometimes, but it's because I'm coming from a place where I had to learn the hard way, and I do not want you to learn the hard way.
Yep. I've gotten third-degree burns, I've had to go get stitches, I've also gotten concussions. I mean, the things that we do on a daily basis are so dangerous anyways, and the stuff
Yeah.
we subject ourselves to, like, it's no secret that the materials we're welding are cancerous, like the fumes and all the
Yeah.
dust and everything. It's not good for us, so we need to protect ourselves in any way we can. There's a women in construction group that I'm in on Facebook, and this girl like posted she's teaching herself how to MIG weld, and she's wearing short sleeve shirts, and she was looking for glove recommendations, and I gave her a glove recommendation, but I was like, and wear long sleeves, otherwise your skin's gonna turn patchy and brown. And then she kind of wanted to joke about it, and she's like this because she's all burnt up obviously, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, yes, and just so you know, like once you do it enough, it doesn't go away. Your skin will be
Yeah.
peeling and it's high risk for cancer. And I'm like, protect yourself so that you can make a lot of money and weld for a long time.
Yeah.
Because if you get cancer or you get really sick, guess what? You're not going to be able to weld and make money. So you need to take care of yourself first and foremost.
Yeah, dude, that's one thing like I'm very like, and I'm very chill, but I'm super uptight about like people welding in short sleeve. I'm like, oh, and they're like, "Oh, it's TIG. Like there's no sparks." And I'm like, "Bitch, that UV ray is frying your ass up right now. Like you don't understand how much that light that comes off, how powerful it is on your skin like repetitively, like it's gonna damage you."
I did not think it was that serious, and I had pretty much wrote off like welding in short sleeves, but I went to go burn a coupon after work, and I realized that I had forgot my FR, but I had, like the green Black Stallion welding sleeves that just
Yeah.
like cover your arm. I
Hmm.
had those with a short sleeve, so I had like
A
an
little
inch and a
patch.
half of skin showing, and I burnt that 2-inch coupon hot as hell, like, I was running really high amperage, and it wasn't even that long, it was a 2-inch, so it was, like,
Yeah.
what, an hour or 2, and literally my skin is still, like, permanently tan because 'cause I'm a pale. My skin is, like, permanently tanned right there from one time. I
Yeah.
mean, seriously, and I was like, "Never, never again." It was not worth it. Like, I didn't even end up going to that job. Like, I should not have done it.
And it's happened to me too, where like I'll have like a shirt that like kind of comes down to here, and I'll put I have my FR over it, and it happened to me. I had
Mhm.
my FR over it and I had my hood. But my hood stops here, and then the shirt was here, and I had forgot to button up my I was so busy that day, I didn't button it up. I like
Yeah,
didn't even, and I think, oh my God, I don't know, but I still have that like dark spot. Like it,
yeah.
and that's why I'm just like, dude, it's so bad. Like just because there's not sparks, just because like this or that, like, or like the TIG welding with no gloves, and I'm like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness.
Yeah, the TIG welding with no gloves is crazy to me because the second your hands get sweaty, you're getting electrocuted as
Yeah, yeah, I'm like that too. And I'm like, is it not hot? Like,
Yeah, no, cause. Dude, my hands get hot through my gloves most of the time.
Like,
I'm like,
I feel it, yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I see it all the time, and I'm just like, I don't comment it anymore because I hate being the OSHA keyboard warrior,
"Mm,
but I just see it and I'm like, "Oh my goodness."
yeah. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to add today?
I don't think so. I'm like, I mean, there like, we could
We
possibly
could
do,
go on for hours.
like, a whole 'nother, like, live on somewhere or something, but, yeah, I'm like, I could talk about stuff with you for, like, forever.
We'll do another episode because it's always fun to catch up with you.
Yeah. Yes, girl, I'm like, and I loved it. I love being here, and I've loved the girls you've had on here.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I listen to them, I listen to their stories, and you know, I love that, like, we as women can have like a safe space to like come and like share our experiences.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. Make sure you guys are following her on social media if you're not already. It's Miss.Welds. Subscribe to the podcast so y'all don't miss an episode, and we will see you on the next one.